Hey there, I'm Jill Griffin, and this is the Career Refresh Podcast. I'm a former media and marketing executive turned career strategist and strengths coach. I spent my career working my way up and through the ranks of global organizations and startups. And today, I show others how to do the same. Join me each week as we discuss the strategies to leverage your strengths, increase your confidence and visibility, and reset your career with actionable steps towards a finer future. Ready? Let's do it. Hey there, welcome back. How's it going? Today I want to talk about what to do when you lose your motivation. It happens to all of us at some point. When you're struggling with motivation, you're likely to come up with a long list of reasons as to why you shouldn't take action. You might be thinking it's hard, or I can't get it done, or the juice might not be worth the squeeze, or you might just be feeling like a level of malaise and numbness that you're like, is it really even going to be worth it? And I get asked a lot from people. They always say to me, like, how do you get yourself back into action? Or how do you stay motivated? Or how do you set yourself up for a better future if you know you want that goal? How do you stay motivated along the way? Well, first, it's such an important question, and you're normal if you're also thinking this way. The answer lies in both mindset and in action. So when you say, I just don't feel motivated, first, I want you to remember that that's a thought and you get to change and choose your thoughts. And second, you're having that thought because, wait for it, you've envisioned an outcome or the result of your effort. You've decided that it's going to be hard or not worth it. And perhaps you've just decided it's going to be a struggle. And that's why you're not motivated. So you're envisioning a future, whether it's minutes or months away, that you don't want. So I'm going to say that again. When you are lacking motivation, it usually comes down to that you are thinking about something in the future that you don't want to have happen. And you think it will happen. So you're like, well, I don't want to do this because I don't want that experience. But you and I know that if there's something you really want that you're inspired about or you're excited about, or someone offers you an opportunity or an experience to go to a show or to see a concert or something. And even if you're tired, even if you've had a long week, you rally because you believe that that experience in the future is going to be worth it. That's the whole crux of motivation. You do that even when you're not feeling great because you don't want to miss out on something. You draw energy from the future that you imagine. And if you imagine it being hard, and you build it into your mind that way, then you worry and you stop taking action. So it's no wonder that it would be hard to motivate yourself. So I'm going to ask you, how many people do you know that willingly, and the key word here is willingly, go into the heavy or the hard without thinking about a big payoff, without a big exchange in the end, whether it's money or experience or a promotion? How many people do you know? People may do it, but they don't do it willingly. Or they get their motivation from fear. If I don't do this, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to be fired. That motivation from fear is like toxic and also is a very short fuse. That the half-life there is really, really short. It's not going to keep you motivated for long. The other thing about motivation is that you want that thing in the future to happen, but you don't think about all the steps along the way, all the obstacles that might come up, and you need a plan for each one of them so that each time your thoughts go to the negative, which again is normal, that you have a way of thinking through it so you can continue to pursue, have the motivation, and to pursue your goal. What we know is that according to psychologists, 85% of what you worry about, what you fear, and what you stress doesn't actually happen. So changing this kind of thinking takes practice. You feel negative feelings. You are thinking negative thoughts. So it makes sense you don't want to take action and enter a world that you've just mentally created through the lens of negativity. Motivation is a feeling, and that means that it's connected to a thought. So you want to be spending time envisioning the future that you want or the outcome. And again, when I say future, sure, it could be 6 months or a year away. It could also be minutes away. Why are you envisioning the future that you want? You want to be thinking about thoughts that give you energy. Thoughts like, I know I'll feel accomplished when I add this to my resume. Doing this work is going to help me build up my experience so I can make that career pivot. When I figure this out, I'm going to be able to position myself in a new way. When you take action from those thoughts and that more positive energy, you're going to start finding budding motivation. So sometimes it can be hard to change the thought. So I'm going to offer you the opportunity to argue the opposite. And this is another way to get around when we're feeling demotivated. You believe everything you think. So when you argue the opposite, you give yourself an opportunity to question your thinking. You're thinking you might fail. You argue all the reasons then why you might succeed. And when you think you can't finish a job, then list all the evidence that you've had previously that you have the experience to complete the task. Find the evidence. And look, get some paper, open your notes apps, and write down that evidence so that you are showing your brain all the places that you have succeeded previously and that the odds are that you can do it again. When your brain starts to see that evidence, great. It's always best to find the thought first. But right now, if you're in this demotivation cycle, then finding the previous evidence to prove to yourself you've done it before may give you the lift. Again, you got to figure out what works for you here. Another sneaky way that motivation or lack of motivation will show up is that we go global and big on our thinking so fast, and not in a good way. We think it's going to be hard to be in this accomplishment. We think about all the dependencies that might get triggered, what might go wrong. Then we think that our colleagues will judge us, our industry will know, our boss might give us a bad review, and then you're going to have to start looking for a job and a new apartment because you're going to be on a lower salary and it's not going to work, right? Do you see that downward spiral? We go global and then we have this downward spiral. And I get it. There's a thought that's just swirling around. So another solve here is to take itty bitty steps. Ask yourself what I call the can I just? Can you just ask yourself, what is the smaller, snackable, bite-sized step that you can take? So if we're thinking about fitness, if a 45-minute workout feels overwhelming to you at 5 a.m. because you're tired, can I just do 10 minutes, right? It's finding that smaller action that you can complete. If you have a huge task in front of you, then you can think about how great you'll feel when you've chipped away a portion of it. The point of can I just is how you can break down the task and find it to be segmented or smaller or chapterified, right? So that you'll have a positive experience, a positive outcome in an hour from now that you can now use as evidence to keep yourself motivated along the way. Then I want to offer you to refresh your thinking around motivation. Motivation has this energy of pushing you to do something, and it starts to feel hard versus when you feel driven or pulled towards something. You lose motivation when you don't know the reasons that you're going after what you want. So you need to know your why. You want the promotion, the job, the raise, but in order to get those things, you have to have the drive or the pull to move you forward. And you may need 25 whys, 25 reasons for why you're going after this, because not every reason is going to work for you every day and keep you motivated. Spend time thinking about what drives you and then make that list of your whys. Dig in, my friend, dig in behind the why. You think you might want the raise, but it's the raise that's going to give you the lifestyle. That's why you want the raise. That's why you want the money. When your why is strong enough, the how will be revealed. Finally, ask yourself, where can you find the drive to pull yourself towards the future? And that's a future that's going to propel you forward. So here are some ways that may shift you to the positive future you want. You got to find what works for you. One is listening to motivational speakers. Find TED Talks. There are great talks on masterclass.com. You can also search and find voices that inspire and activate you. Some things that come to mind: Mel Robbins, which is no relation to Tony Robbins, but he's great too. Amy Purdy, Jim Rohn, Sarah Buckley, Steve Harvey, Gretchen Rubin, Wayne Dyer. Daniel Pink has a great TED Talk on motivation. And if you haven't seen Tom Brady's Man in the Arena on Hulu, I personally wish it was a podcast so I can listen to it more than once. It is a must. It's a go. It is really, really motivating and really interesting about the mindset of a champion. But you have to find someone that works for you so that you can shift and change your perspective. The next thing I would say is you really do need to do regular mind exploration work, and I call it thought work, but you have to uncover what's in there and what's going to drive you or drag you. And having thoughts that I would classify as negative or fear-based, and if you don't process them, they're going to stop you. When I say process them, I'm not necessarily talking about discussing the reason why you have the negative feeling, although you can do that with your therapist if you want to. I'm talking about actually feeling the feeling, feel the suckiness of it, right? This is fight or flight. This is the reason when the zebra gets away from the lion, it needs to shake it off, to shake the energy out of you. You need to process that too. And if you're so fearful of feeling failure, or shame, judgment, embarrassment, that you let it demotivate and stop you, if you sit with the feeling, the vibration in your body, it's still going to suck, but it will pass within 90 seconds. It's just neurochemicals pulsating through your body, and they will dissipate. And then you can go about tackling the future that you want, because you know what it feels like to feel that suckiness already. And while you don't welcome it, you know that you can get through it. When I first launched my business, there were things that I knew I needed to do in order to drive revenue or to create awareness. And some of the tactics I dreaded. And I let it stop me for a day or two. And then I processed the discomfort and I got busy. And I now know that I can let the discomfort stop me, and then I'm left where I am with discomfort. Or I can process the vibration, let it move through my body, which means I was able to move towards the future I want. I was able to not let the feeling stop me and get the results I want. I'm big on writing things down. Yes, again, you can use a notes app, but pen to paper I feel is always best because it incorporates your entire nervous system and change is more embodied. Writing down the sensations of fear, the knot in your throat, the tension in your shoulders, the nervousness in your stomach. We don't want these. We teach our brain that we can get through this and we can process this feeling little by little. We become so much less fearful next time. Motivational speaker Jim Rohn says that motivation is like a shower and that you need to do it every day. And when you feel a lack of motivation, try any one of these approaches or tactics that I gave you today. And as a last thought for you, get dressed, move, shower. If you are unmotivated, change your mindset. If that doesn't work, change your routine or your schedule or your goals. Sometimes it's easiest to start with the thought you need and sometimes the action, but find what works for you and go get it. Let me know what you think about motivation and what you're doing to motivate yourself. I would love to hear from you. But before I go, who is helping you with your career strategy? I would be honored to help you. Check out the details in the show notes of where you can apply for my one-on-one coaching program. All right, my friends, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining me this week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Career Refresh podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast and you want more career and mindset tips, get on my email list by going to jillgriffincoaching.com. I'll also put that link in the show notes. But before you go, please rate and review this podcast as it helps me get the word out to people everywhere so they can also thrive in the workplace. I'll see you next time.